So, hi everyone, I am Geethani Mahalekange, lecturer, Department of Human Resource Management, Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies, University of California. So today I am going to discuss with you about the perception process. It comes under organizational behavior, BMGT 3055. So these are the learning objectives. After studying this chapter, you should be identify or define the perception. So you can identify what is perception and identify the perceptual process. Remember, perception, it is not one-time activity. It also have a process. So there is a perceptual process. So you can identify what are the steps related with this perceptual process. And then describe the factors affecting the perception. There are different types of factors affecting the perception, and there is a very basic theory comes under perception, so that is attribution theory. So in here you can identify what is attribution theory and why we can use this attribution theory and why it is comes under perception. Then identify perception errors. So commonly people, they are doing some perception errors, so it is badly affected to the organizational behavior. And then identify how to reduce such perception errors, and then how to improve our perception. Then finally you can identify the perception and its application in OB. So what is perception? So have you before heard about this term, that is perception? So it means that how we interpret our world and how we see about our world and how we think about our world. That is a simple definition of perception. So according to Stephen Robbins, he defined it is a process. Earlier I mentioned this is not a one-time activity. So perception happen throughout the process. So it is a process by which individuals organize and interpret the sensory impressions. So normally we get information from our five organs, five sense organs, through eye, nose, skin. So we can get data from our environment. So we can organize and interpret and give meaning to their environment. And also it is a process of receiving, selecting, organizing, interpreting and reaction to sensory stimuli, or that means the information gained from the environment. So in simply we can say perception, it is like a beauty that lies in the eyes of observer. So it is a beauty lies in the eyes, lies in the observer. So observer, normally observer, as an observer we can see different thing in a different way. So if we like for other object, or so we, or if we interest for another object, so we feel okay, it is good one, it is very beautiful one. So likewise it's happen based on the observer thinking pattern and observer perception. So that is the perception. So individual differs, different individual see, interpret and understand a particular event in a different way. So different individual see something, interpret something, or understanding about something in a different way. That means different individual interpret same situation in a different way, because people have different personality, people have different attitudes, so what their perception also differ based on the personality and the background. So let's take a manager may perceive non-attendance of the duty by the subordinator in a different way. Sometimes one person say, okay, that person is the person non-attendance of duty because of his irresponsibility, or someone can say, okay, that person have to face lot of difficulties when they are coming from home to office. That means traffic jams or difficult to find public transport, that's why he not come on time to the organization. So that's why so different individual can perceive in the same situation in a different way. And also another example, organization provide lunch for their employees in a subsidized manner. So one employee can see, or one employee can perceive this situation, so it is right to get the lunch at a subsidized price because we are the employees in the organization. So organization earn profit because of us. And also other person can perceive it is mandatory to, it is compulsory to give subsidized lunch pack to their employees from the organization. So another employees can perceive like that. Okay. So likewise, different employees perceive same situation in a different way. Okay. And um, and also uh, there are some disagreement among the individual in the organization in relation to pay and allowances or administrative backpack or policies and the procedures. So some employee can have positive feelings or positive attitudes, positive perception towards organization benefits, but other person can feel it is inadequate. So organization not provide proper payment and proper benefits. Likewise, so another person can feel in another way. And also in the organization, managers, they normally rate their employees as a good performer and the bad performer based on their perception. So how can we identify that person is good performer and the bad performer? But based on the perception. So the manager feels, okay, A person is good than B person. It is their perception. Because of the perception, managers can rank their subordinates. But it may not be correct. So the thing is, perception is apart from the real situation. Sometimes perception is apart from the real situation. It's not matched with the real situation. Sometimes real situation is highly differ from our perception. So we perceive, so manager perceive A employee is a very good employee. Okay, but the real thing is no, it's not maybe happen sometimes. So that means perception is most of the time is apart from the reality. That's why we need to reduce such perception errors. We should improve our perception. So it is very important to organization because managers should perceive individual correctly irrespective of their status and the situation. So that's why we need to identify what is perception and why we need to improve our perception. Okay, what do you see in this picture? So someone feel it has two faces looking at each other, and someone can say it is a vase. So actually so different people can perceive a same situation in a different way. That's why we can interpret a same situation in a different way. And earlier I mentioned it is a perceptual process. Here this is the perceptual process. So normally a person get environmental stimuli, that means information, data from five sense organs. So these are the five senses: feeling, hearing, seeing, smelling and tasting. So then selective attention. Normally we don't get all the information from the environment. Okay, we make attention and selective most important information from the environment. So that is known as selective attention. And then we try to organize and interpret those information. Then based on that our attitudes and behaviors may created. The first one is the process of receiving stimuli. This is the first stage of uh, perceptual process. So there are five sensory organs in human organism uh, that those help to receive stimuli through these organs. And then selective attention. The body of any individual select only those stimuli which are important. Okay, so we are not taking every information, we are not selecting every information gained from the environment. We are selecting most important information from the environment. So this selection is governed by the following factors like perceiver side factors, and target and the situation. So let's see. So these are the factors influencing the perception. First one is factors in the perceiver. So perceiver attitudes also affect into the perception or making attention on something. So normally people have positive and negative perception. Okay, sorry, attitudes. So normally attitudes may be positive and negative. So some workers feel and perceive that the prevailing working conditions in the organization are friendly for a work, and it contribute to positively for employers. So like as that, if the employee have a positive attitude, he try to look at the world in a positive way. So if the person have a positive attitude towards the workplace, so he think so our organization provide everything for our benefit. But if the person have negative attitude, that person always try to see the world in the negative way. So like in the organization, if the person have negative attitudes towards the organization, that person feel organization not provide proper benefits, organization not provide proper salary, and those are inadequate for them. So perceivers' attitudes also affected to the perception. That means how they see and how they interpret and how they understand the world around them. And the motives are, that is those are the reasons. That mean if the boss who is insecure, that the person have feel that is insecure, the boss who is insecure perceive subordinate who does well as threat to his position. So he feels subordinates always try to threaten to that boss's position. So because of that motive, because he always feel insecure. And the interest. So interest is person's liking for a particular thing in an individual. So people have different interest. That people's interest may be differ based on their personality, their background. So likewise. So in the workplace, some managers, they interest for the people who are coming from same family background, who are coming from same school, who are coming from same university. So at that time what happens? It is sometimes others feel unfavorable for them, but it is highly affected to the interest. In the example, highly affected by the interest. In the example, let's say in the interview panel, panelist is from University of California, so he is always interested to candidates who are coming from university, who are passed out from University of California. So because of that reason, who always try to select uh, graduates passing from the University of California, because his interest is the candidates who are passing from University of California. And the experience, so normally past experience, knowledge and learning that person uh, get may lead to perceive things more accurately. So normally if we have past experiences, so our thinking pattern is very different. Like an example, we can use past experience, past knowledge to solve the present or current present and current problems. So their perception may be differ. Sometimes when people get matured, their perception may be differ, their attitudes may be differ because of that experience. And the expectation, sometimes people have different expectations. So different expectation, those are affected to employees' perception. Example, power hungry police officer, he may be strict regardless of his actual traits. Sometimes actual traits is that person is not strict, but his expectation is what? To getting more and more power. So because of that reason, that person may be strict, and also always uh, think others also threaten them. So the next one is factors in the target. Novelty, first one is novelty. So we pay more attention, or we draw the attention on the new new objects. So normally job rotation, example job rotation, change workers from job to job, will increase attention to that particular task they perform. So we make more attention on new things. So if we uh, have rotating jobs, we always try to make attention on a particular task, because we always try to do new things, and we always have to pay more attention on new tasks and challenges. And the motion, so people pay more attention to moving objects than stationary objects. Example, an infant. Okay, an infant may catch his eyes to a motion objects hanging on the cot, okay, than doll lying beside him. Normally infant, they try to catch the attention for object hanging on the cot than the dolls lying beside him. And the sounds, so normally we pay more attention on large sound. So like we pay more attention on announcement, it has loud sound, so we try to pay more attention on loud sound. And the size, we always try to pay more attention on large size notice. That means it can be easily noticed, and give attention on large objectives than small things, like large name boards by the roadside is very obvious. And also headlines also, we can move attention towards headlines. And the background, so normally we based on the background, our perception may be differ. So white dot in a black background can be easily seen. So likewise background also affected to the perception. And the proximity, so proximity mean the simply word, it is closeness. So things which are closer together will be seen as a belonging to together. So we perceive that things are closer together as a group. Okay, So example, students coming out of a lecture hall or a department or work group are perceived as a single entity. Okay, because we perceive things are which closer together will be seen as a groups. So those are the factors in the target. And the factors in the situation, so time to time our perception may be differ. So like the perception in the small children, so as we are in small children, so our perception is differ. When we become matured, so also our perception also differ. So how we see the world, how we interpret the world, and how we uh, how we understand the world is depend on the time to time. Okay, so the perception is differ based on the time to time. And the work setting also affected the perception. Sometimes example, uh, you can heard that people say that their manager is different during the work hours and opposite while in the social setting. In the social setting he is very friendly person, but in the work setting he is very strict and rude person. The work setting also affected to the perception of the people. And the social setting, it is very important. So normally uh, we are considering highly about the social setting, that means social status, no? So based on the social status, perception may be different. So example, when the person come by Pajero, so we think he is a rich man, but when the person come by foot bike, we feel that person is very poor. So likewise, social setting also affected to the perception. So those are the factors that influence in the perception. The third step is process of organizing and interpreting. So the stimuli received by an individual must be organized properly, so as to assign some meaning of them. So earlier I mentioned, first we receive some stimuli or data from the environment, then we select uh, the information. We are not taking all the information, so based on the perceiver, target and the situation, uh, we select very important information from the environment. And the third one is process of organizing and interpreting. So what we should do is, then we should um, organize those information, and then based on that we can provide meaning of them. So there are four types of perceptual grouping: closer, continuity, similarity and proximity. We will discuss this later. And the attitudes, and then the final one is, and the fourth stage is attitudes and behavior. So attitudes and behavior create based on perception. So, according to the third step, we have to discuss about the perceptual grouping. Actually, this is comes from the psychological discipline. According to the Gestalt theory, it is the most important theories comes under psychological discipline. So, as you already know, OB, it includes different disciplines like psychology, sociology. So likewise, different disciplines are affected to the organizational behavior. So that we have to pay attention on some concepts related with different discipline. So Gestalt theory, it is a basic concept or theory comes under psychological theory. So when you search Gestalt theory, then you can get this perceptual grouping. The first one is closer. We tend to see complete figures even when part of the information is missing. That means we always try to close the gaps that are unfilled by from the sensory inputs. In this picture, you may well see circles. Here you may feel, so these are the circles. Even as less information is given with the less line, uh, as in the picture D, so again you can perceive this as a circle. But here you can see in the picture A, so you can fully interpret this as a circle, but in the picture D, there is a less information and less line, but still you can perceive this as a circle. So when people have incomplete information, they try to fill the gap by themselves without looking further information. So normally it happens. We don't know the complete information, but we try to fill the gap. So people fill the missing part of the information and make it more meaningful. Let's take example, stockbroker. The stockbroker assume stock price may increase a certain organization when the organization introduce new items. So stockbrokers can say if the organization uh, introduce new item to the market, so the stock price may be increased. So without having full information, they can uh, fill those gaps and give meaning to them. The second one is continuity. Continuity is that our brain tend to say object as continuous or smooth rather than disjoint or discontinuous. That means an individual tend to perceive continuous pattern. So here, when there is an intersection between two or more objects, people tend to perceive each object as a single uninterrupted object. That means that individual tend to perceive continuous pattern. Example, uh, if the past problem happen again, that means the same problem happen in two different time period. So people try to use past experiences and knowledge. So they try to continually use the knowledge learned from the past experience. So that is continuity. And the proximity, that means things which are closer together will be seen as a belonging together. Here, the objects or shapes that are close to one another appear to form groups. So, when the objects and the shapes are close to one another, so it can be appeared as a group. Proximity is when an individual perceives several objects that are close together as belonging together. So in here, in this picture, we perceive two different blocks of dot. Here you can see two different blocks of dots. So because of their position. But if these dots were to be miles and miles apart, then we would not perceive them as being a group. So here the blocks of dots are in a closer together. That's why we can perceive this as two different blocks of dots. So in the example, so student coming out of a lecture hall we perceived as a single entity. Student come out from lecture hall working group, so we consider that group as a single entity because of the proximity. And the similarity, so events that are similar to each other tend to group together and have a tendency of perceiving them as a common group. The law describes placing similar objects with one another. It could be perceived as a pattern of group. In here, you probably see rows before you see columns. Why? We can see white row, black row, because similar dots are there. But we cannot see the column firstly, we can see the row first because it has similar dots close together. So likewise we try to describe similar thing, and we try to describe those similar thing as a one group. Like we consider black American people, we identify the similar characteristic from those people, and we can say Muslim people, so they have similar characteristics. And we can say Chinese people, that why we can see the similar characteristics from them. So we always try to tend similar people into same group. And the next one is attribution theory. It is a basic theory, comes under perception. So we always try to explain the behavior of other people around us. And we always try to explain the behavior of others based on the internal factors and based on the external factors. Internal factors, we attribute the behavior of other people because of internal factors. So internal factors, those are originate from within the person and individual. So that internal causes can be controlled by the person. And also we attribute behavior of other people and we interpret them based on the external causes, that is resulting from the outside and cannot control. So from the matters happen in the environment, those cannot be controlled, but our attitudes, our hard working, our beliefs, those can be controlled by ourselves. Those are considered as internal causes. In reality, the behavior of other people is on a combination of external and internal factors. So let's see what bit of information can we use to determine whether we think that someone's behavior is attributed to internal or external factors. So the first one is distinctiveness. That is special thing happen. So let's see how we can attribute when special things happen. Let's take an example. The employee who come to office every day on time. So he is considered punctuality as very important thing, and he is a hard worker. But one day he come after 1 hour late. So what happened? This behavior is out of his character. That person is very punctual one, but one day he come after 1 hour late. So we can see, okay, this behavior is out of his character, and that behavior is very special one. And the manager think this is an unusual situation. So manager assume that the employee lateness is due to huge traffic. So that means in this situation we are going to attribute to external factors. So huge traffic we cannot control, it is external factor. So in this situation manager going to attribute that behavior to external factors. Okay, that's why when distinctiveness is high we are attributing to external factor. When the distinctiveness is low we attribute that behavior to the internal factors. And the next one is consistency. That means constantly happen and regularly happen. So let us take an employee who is late 2 or 3 times a week. Okay, that is the usual behavior. Over the course of month we notice that he has consistently displayed the same behavior over time. That means he come late to the organization 2 or 3 times of a week. So it is his usual behavior. When there is a high level of consistent behavior over time, we are more likely to think that is related to his attitudes, like carelessness, not respect to the organization rules likewise. So when consistency is high, we are more likely to attribute that behavior towards internal factors. When it is low, we attribute to that behavior into external factors. And the third one is consensus. It is meaning of harmony and compromise. This is related to group behavior. So let's say if you arrive late to the meeting and you are with 20 other people and they all are late. So that means there is a high degree of consensus, and what that means is that lot of people are demonstrating the same behavior. When a lot of people are demonstrating the same behavior, then we start to think that everybody's lateness is probably related to the environment factors. That means there is no parking, the weather was bad, the elevator got stuck. So in that case, a high level of consensus means that we are more likely to attribute the behavior to external causes. When the consensus is low, we attribute it to internal factors. So that's how we try to interpret the behavior of others. We always try to understand their behaviors, that means others' behavior, by attributing to the external factors or internal factors. And then let's see about the errors and bias in attribution. There are basically two errors: fundamental attribution error and the self-serving bias. So fundamental attribution error, that means the tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal factors when making judgment of the behavior of around us. So example, an organization tend to attribute their own success to internal factors such as ability and effort of the employees, and they underestimate the external factors. They are not saying that we are getting more success because of the market trend, because of the luck. That organization not saying like that. They underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal factors. And the self-serving bias. It is the tendency for individuals to attribute their own success to internal factors, and while putting blame for failures on external factors. So individuals always try to attribute their own success to internal factors and failures to external factors like luck. So example, students say that he passed the examination because of his effort, and if that person is fail, if that student is fail, uh, they attribute the failed exam because of teachers and the lecturers. So likewise in the organization, increase in sales of commodity is generally attributed to efficiency of sale forces and the effort of sale forces likewise, and decrease in the sales of commodities generally attributed to decline market trends, recession, innovation product launched by competitors, and the competition gained from the competitors are considered as external factors. Let's say what are the perceptual errors. That means what are the common shortcuts in judging others. First one is selective perception. So people selectively interpret what they see on the basis of their interest, background, experience and attitudes. In a simple word, a person sees the world only as he wants to see, not what the actual world is. So actually he or she wants to see the world through the imagination of his own. So that is known as selective perception. So example, panelist in the interview who pass out from University of California gives more priority to select the candidates from University of California. That means that person perceive that the student who passed out from the University of California are very skillful and very intelligent, and they can work in a proper way. So he always try to select the candidate or candidates from the University of California. So that means people selectively interpret what they see on the basis of their interest, background, experiences and attitudes. The second one is halo effect. That means drawing a general impression about an individual on the basis of a single characteristics. So normally we try to interpret others based on the single characteristics. That means example, one candidate come from for the interview without wearing a tie. So panel members reject the candidates because of that characteristics. But sometimes that person is very intelligent and very qualified person. Because of the external factor, he cannot wear the tie when they are appearing in the interview. Okay? But without considering those reasons, the interview panel try to reject that person basis on that one characteristics. So that is a very common error that we have to use during the interview panels. And also we always try to interpret others based on the single characteristic. So that is halo effect. And the next one is contrast effect. So we always not try to evaluate person in isolation. So our reaction to one person is relative to other person. We are not evaluating person in isolation. That we always try to compare employees to identify best and bad performers. So manager wants to evaluate or manager wants to select good performer. That means best performer in the organization. So how they can select the best performer? So definitely that manager have to compare that person with others. By comparing the employee, manager can identify best performer and the poor performer. But sometimes it may be apart from the reality. It is based on the manager's perception. Manager think, okay, person A is good person. He is very loyalty, he is very friendly, always share their opinion with manager. So likewise, that manager have a good perception towards person A. That's why then that manager select that person A as the best person or best performer in the organization. But sometimes realities differ. So that's why we need to improve our perception. So we always try to compare people with others. Evaluation of a person's characteristics that are affected by comparison with other people. Recently encountered who rank higher or lower on the same characteristic. So it is very common perceptual errors that occur in the organization. When we evaluating employees, we always try to compare one employee with other employees. That's how managers try to define the employees as a good employee, best employee, good performer, bad performer by comparing with others. And the projection. We always try to attribute one's own characteristic to other people. So we always try to expect my characteristics from others. Let's say when the manager work hard and come on time to the office, so he always think others should work like that. That means the manager expect others would be same, others should come on time and others should work hard. But it is apart from the reality. We cannot expect our characteristics from others. When we work hard and when we come on time to the organization, we cannot expect that same characteristic from our employee. Sometimes our employees have lot of problems. Sometimes they have to face lot of external factors. They cannot find proper public transport. There is a huge traffic in the road. So that's why sometimes they not come to the work on time. Sometimes some employees have a huge family commitment, so that's why they can't come every day to the office. That's why they can't work hard like manager. So manager should understand about others. He cannot expect his own characteristics from others. So but most of the managers and people, they are uh, using these common shortcuts when judging others. And stereotyping, that means judging someone on the basis of one's perception of group to which that person belongs. So we have a different perception towards different groups. We have a different perception towards Muslims, we have different perception towards Chinese people. That means we have perception towards Japanese people. We perceive Japanese are very humble, obedient and very respectable people, and Indians are very aggressive people. Women are sensitive. So we try to perceive people based on their group. That means judging someone on the basis of one's perception of group to which that person belongs. So that's why some organization, they are not hiring women employees. Why? They think the women employees have a lot of commitment towards their family and always try to balance work and life. And we perceive, so entire world have perception that women are sensitive and they can't work hard. So that's why some organization, they avoid to hire women employees. So likewise, because of that stereotyping. So it is also a common shortcut in judging others. And another one is recency effect. A perceptual error in which the most recent information dominates one perception of other. So normally most recent information dominates one's perception of others. It is a very common shortcut that managers are using in evaluating their employees. They take decision based on the recent information. They perceive people based on the very recent information. So most performance evaluation done in year end. But targets are given at the beginning of the year. But the thing is, supervisor evaluate their subordinates based on the recent performance. So that's why we are calling this recency effect happen most of the time in the performance evaluation of employees, because managers don't remember the past things of that employee, past duties and the responsibilities of employees, but he remember, that means manager remember the very recent performance of the employee. So based on that, manager always try to make decision. That means the very recent information are taken to evaluate the performance of the employees. So let's see how to improve perception. So earlier we discussed that people use some common shortcuts when judging others. So it is not a good thing. Sometimes it may be apart from the reality. So that's why we need to improve perception. So because if we don't know the reality, if we take the decision based on the perception, so most of the time managers can take wrong decision, so it is unfair for the employees. So that's why managers need to improve the perception. How we can improve the perception? Be empathetic. So empathy means to be able to see the situation as it is perceived by the other person. That means it is like putting your feet in another shoes. So we should understand the situation of other person. So earlier I mentioned the perception error of projection. So projection means most of the time managers expect others uh, from the same characteristics of the manager. Sometimes manager work hard and manager come on time to the office, so he expect that things from their employees, but the reality is differ. So employees have to face lot of external factors when they are coming from home to office. Sometimes huge traffic, not having public transport. So we have to, as a manager, we have to understand the situation. So for that, we should communicate openly. The fourth factor is communicating openly. We can ask, why did you absent yesterday? Why are you coming late every day? So we can openly ask. Then we can understand the situation and the reality. So without considering the reality, managers cannot take the decision. If they take decision without considering those things, most of the time they may have to take wrong decisions. And also having positive attitudes. So it is very important one. If we see if we have positive attitudes, we always try to see the world in a positive way. So if we have a negative attitudes, we always feel negatively, and we also interpret everything in a negative way. So if we have negative attitudes, we always say, no, we can't do that. It is not working in a proper way. In a negative side, always see in the negative side. So we always try to interpret people in a negative way. That person is bad, that person is not hard worker, okay, that person is not punctual one. So likewise, we always try to interpret others in a negative way. That's why we need to have positive attitudes. So if we have positive attitudes, we always try to see the world in a positive way. It is very important. And also avoiding perceptual distortion. So what are the perceptual errors halo effect, stereotype, attribution. So we should think openly. So we should have open-minded. Okay, we should think very openly in and very creative way. So when we think openly, so then we can avoid this halo effect, stereotype, attribution. Likewise, to become a open-minded person. So that's how we can improve the perception. So then we can see the reality of the person or reality of the situation. And let's see how this perception affect to organization behavior, the applications in organization behavior. And employee interview. Earlier I mentioned lot of perceptual errors like selective attention, and then what is halo effects, stereotype. Those are highly affected to the employee interview. Interviewers make perceptual judgments that are often inaccurate. Different interviewers try to see different things in the same candidates, thus arrive at different perception about the same candidate. So in the interview panel there are different people, different panelists are there. So different panelists see the same person in a different way. So they make conclusion about that person in a different way. So it happened to perceptual errors. Because of the perceptual errors, most of the panel members take inaccurate decision. Sometimes they may make decision based on the one characteristic, but the reality is differ. So without considering reality, they try to make decision based on the perception. So it goes to create inaccurate decision about interviewee. And the performance appraisal. So assessment of an employee's performance very much depend on the perception of the evaluator about the employee. In practice, an employee future is closely tied to his or her performance appraisal. Normally, performance appraisal, it is the basic thing. It evaluates the person, and ultimately the result of the performance evaluation are highly affected to the person's promotion, incentives, and the bonus. So transfers, so performance appraisal results are highly affected. Therefore, evaluators should properly evaluate the person. Sometimes contrast effect, recency effect, against uh, stereotyping, projection, those are affected to evaluate others. But remember, as a manager, they should take proper decision and evaluate properly about the employees, because the employee's future is depend on this result of performance appraisal. And the next one is performance expectation. Normally, uh, managers expect different things from the employees, and as well as employees expect different things from the managers. So uh, this expectation may be affected by the perception. So sometimes manager think that in the internship we can think, okay, intern should work very hardly, because in our internship time we also worked very hardly. That's why we expect our interns from to work hard. So likewise there are performance expectation. And employee loyalty, it is also a perception. How can we define the loyalty? How can we exactly measure the loyalty? No, we cannot exactly measure the loyalty, but we can perceive that person is loyal person when the person is come on time and the person is come daily to the office, work hard, then we perceive as that person is a loyal person. So that's how this perception affect to organization behavior. Well, coming to summary, so we discussed about the perception. First, we identify the definitions. What are the definition related with the perception, and what is the perceptual process? And under that, identify factors influencing perception and the perceptual grouping such as proximity, similarity, closer, and then identify the attribution theory. What are the variables that we discuss about under the attribution theory? Then identify some shortcuts that we used when judging others, that mean the perceptual errors, and then identify how we can improve the perception, that mean how we can see the reality, and finally we discuss perception and OB application. So that is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.